Hey, it's Drybear. A brand new patch has hit the First Descendants. Let's talk about what's in it. So the newest, latest, and greatest for the patch is going to be the addition to the Void Purge or Void Erosion Purge system. So if you jump in game and go to Void Erosion Purge, you will notice that there are now 10 more levels. So previously we go up to 20 as the max, and now you can go all the way up to 30. And this one is actually pretty tough. Around 23, 24, you're gonna start feeling it real bad. And there's also some pretty nasty nerfs to the amount of skill damage that you deal as well. For the most part, you will want to start relying on weapon damage, like firearm damage, going up to 30, and there are actually a lot of people that are running just pure firearm builds or firearm group squad builds and setups are there. However, one of the cool things about this patch is they did add a leaderboard. It does work as far as showing players. So if you go to this screen on Void Erosion Purge, you can press L on PC. I'm sure down here there's going to be a different hotkey for on console. You can open this up and it'll show you what the top scorers are. And they do allow you to sort it by Descendant as well, which means you can see how far people have gotten it. Unfortunately, the Kyle has only gotten to 24, Essimo has only gotten to 23, but as expected, Inez is going up to 30, but you're gonna see most of the value coming from the gun Descendants. There's even a very weapons platform-based Haley build that's doing incredibly well right now as well for the climb there. However, you can also filter by platform if you wanna do your platform or all platforms. And specifically, you can do solo, 2-player squad, 3-player squad, or 4-player squad. What you will notice again is if you go to the setups for 2, 3, and 4, you will start seeing a lot of Enzos for that weapon damage or crit damage buff, that crit chance buff from Enzo, making firearm attack better. So you can see there's a lot of like Glay, Enzo, firearm Haley, Enzo, firearm Glay, a lot of weapon characters that way. And as you start going higher and higher, you'll even notice things like Lepic doing the toe build, bringing people in and gathering them all up so they can't attack, doing some things with like Viesa or even Luna for buffing and that kind of thing. And then the combo of like Enzo and a gun character being able to do firearm there. But these are actually quite difficult. I just pushed through some of them just now, got through 5 levels, and around 24, your skill damage is going to start falling down pretty hard. And you'll notice that things will start dying a lot slower, and so you will need to start leaning on firearm attack to get to the higher levels. And you do want to do that because at the higher levels, that's when you start getting the new levels of the materia, which is the augmentation cores. These now go up to level 10, which means you can get better stats on the core implants for your weapons. And along with this patch, they did add in the ability to craft the augmentation cores as well. So you will be able to come over here to our good buddy Deslin, talk to him, and he has a new option here called Craft Core. When you go to this, you will be able to craft your cores. Now, a couple things about this screen is it's super confusing the way they set this up. So the default for this is you will be able to craft the next highest by using a certain amount of the previous level. However, it does require the core amplifier. This is a new resource that will drop inside of the Void Erosion Purge. So what you'll see when you first log in, if you haven't done Void Erosion Purge on the new patch, is you will see only just this here. This screen won't pop up. You'll need to go do some avoid erosion to get some of the core amplifiers so you can actually see this screen pop up. Next, by default, it'll have this auto calculate lower stages on, which is super confusing, but once you understand how it works, it's not that confusing. So this essentially is, it just takes a certain amount of the previous level to get more of the next level up. However, they do have a preview option, which I don't know why they wrote it this way. This could just be a translation thing, but if you check this, it will show you how much of the previous crafting you would have to do to be able to get these done. So you can actually auto-calculate lower stages. So I need to make a certain amount of the previous levels. Like I need to make some 5s because I'm out of 6s. Those 6s will allow me to make 7s. Those 7s will allow me to make 8s. So on and so forth. So you'll be able to do it that way if you really wanted to, which will allow you to create it just because it's auto-calculating that. It is a nice feature, allows you to craft with the previous levels without having to go through and make each individual one. But when you first get here, you're probably gonna look at it and be like, why does it require 9 5s, 48 4s, and 18 3s to make this 7? That doesn't make any sense. It's because it's rolling up the previous crafts if you don't have enough to make those augmentation cores. And the same is for all of these slots as well. And they do go all the way up to 10 as well, which will give you better stats for the rolls on your weapons if you're trying to do that. Now, some extra features with the leaderboard as it relates to Void Erosion Purge, you can definitely tell that they're going to be implementing this to future systems as well. As you can open up your journal. It's J for me on PC, whatever it is for you on console. So you can bring out your journal, and then if you go over here to this new category called Leaderboard, you can click on this and it'll actually just have Void Erosion Purge here. So you don't want to go up to the actual Void Erosion Purge stage. You can actually do that just to see what it would look like. And then you can actually see your own personal scores, and it'll keep track of your individual descendants as well. There is a top 100 for all of these, especially for solo. There will be a notification in the top right corner of the screen when you set a new personal best. So it actually keeps track of your personal best on each of these per descendant as well, and for like platform, that sort of thing as well if you really wanted to. So it'll keep track of that, and the leaderboards do reset. They have a reset of about 35 days, it seems like. So these will roll over, and then you'll be able to compete for that with different descendants. So maybe we'll start seeing people make an SCMO build and try and push higher than stage 23. And I think that's pretty cool because it gives us more options to play with different characters as well. But this could also just be the new season. Maybe this new season rolls over and then the leaderboard is for the entire season. So maybe when the season resets, they add new characters, they add Serena, they add new things. Potentially we're going to see more things here on the leaderboard, like the new Void Abyss or whatever content they add, or maybe even adding in the Void Vessels as an option for leaderboard as well, which would be pretty cool. And a couple more notes on this. Like the value of points, if you're trying to look at like what your overall points and score is for these, it values stage clear the most, which means completing the stage gives you the lion's share of your points. Then it also will calculate your time as a tiebreaker for other people who had also completed that stage. And your clear time does include your death penalty as well. So if you had 72 seconds of death penalty and you finished the stage in 5 minutes, it would add the extra minute and 12 seconds on top of your clear time to make it like 6 minutes and 12 seconds from your death penalty as well. So that's the tiebreaker for completing the stage, for people to complete it there, and that's how the score is calculated on the left side. And like I said, it'll keep track of all your characters, so you can just kind of set a personal record for yourself if you just want to play solo and race against yourself to see how you can do with all characters. Now, they also added a brand new map for the new levels of Void Erosion Purge. It's a lot more open and wide. The enemies are going to be a little spaced out as they spawn between waves, and you will notice that as you start going higher and higher, your skill damage will drop down. Even in the footage here, you can see that my Nez is doing like 70,000 in some cases with the damage to some characters. So it'll go up and down, and there will be some reductions to it. Now, they did mention that they wanted the firearm attack to be the biggest here. And with this, they mentioned that the higher the difficulty, the greater rewards. They added in more matchmaking for stage 21, 25, and this time around, they did matchmaking available for 28, 29, and 30. So we're going to be able to, once you actually clear all the way up to 28, you can then matchmake from then on with your group there. And I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity for people that like playing with like an Enzo build. They will be very appreciative if you do like a support Enzo or a support Luna to be able to buff people up, or even just come in with like a Glay or a Haley to be able to get some buffs there, or maybe even a mobbing Lebic to group everything up with his toe on that big suck grenade. So being able to matchmake at 28, 29, and 30, I think is a really nice addition and should help a lot with the leaderboards filling out as well if you don't have anyone to hang out with. They added core amplifiers to the reward for completing it, so that material you need to combine and craft cores only comes when you complete the stage of Void Erosion. And in the Void Erosion Purge Zone, attack is significantly amplified when using attributes that resonate with the Void attribute. So they are kind of telling you that they want you to pretty much only, if you're going to do skill damage, use the element that they're recommending, and also have any kind of bonuses that you can against the specific legion that you're up against in that fit level as well. Up to stage 20, the attack amplification effect was strong. However, going from 21 to 30, the attack amplification effect gradually weakens. So again, you will be then doing like 1.5 million, 2 million on normal abilities, but as you start going higher and higher, you'll notice those numbers getting smaller and smaller because that bonus damage is going to get weaker as well. And as you get closer to the final stage, the powerful influence of Void Erosion further reduces the skill's attack. So again, starting at around level 24, you'll notice your skill damage is dropping, and then by 27, 28, you're really going to start feeling it as your skill damage gets weaker and weaker. And just like the Void Vessel, they just want a wide variety of things that require different builds, and I think that it kind of goes in line with the core system that they did with the Void Erosion Purge, where you can make your weapons crazy strong, so they just want you to lean into that a little bit more. So that's a big part of Void Erosion, is being able to have a good weapon build to go all the way up. Now, if you wanted to, you could also just farm like 22, 23 and just combine up to get the cores that you need, but obviously it's probably gonna be more efficient to do maybe 27, 28, or if you're really big, do like 29, 30 to get the highest level of cores dropping from the enemies that you're clearing. They made some improvements to the support system on the bulletin board. Most people haven't been able to use this, partially because it was bugged for a while, but also because not a lot of people are sending out these support requests on the board as well. So more bug fixes will allow people to get these gold coins so they can actually get the old battle pass weapons if they're missing out on them, and also just let people like ask for help with the support system and get it if they actually need it and they're a newer player. A huge one here is they increased the maximum number of modules that you can own up to 2,000 from 1,500. I honestly wish this was 3,000. Hopefully there isn't some technical reason why they're holding out on us on this, but getting an extra 500 modules I think is a massive win for us, and it gives you a lot more room to play around with. Especially what I'm noticing is as you're waiting for new characters to come out, what I've been doing is holding on to a ton of red mods, like hundreds and hundreds of red mods, so that I can combine when the new patch comes out and get the new red mods easier. However, holding on to hundreds of extra modules just starts to get very cumbersome with the amount, so going up to 2,000 is a nice win. They changed the color on elite monsters to be more orange. So normal monsters, at least when you do the Assieve, like when you tab on PC or throw out the Assieve on console, you'll be able to see the monsters a little bit clearer, and you'll notice even in the footage here that the elite monsters actually have an orange tint to them. Hopefully this helps a little bit for anyone who's colorblind and affected by this, but they also mentioned that it helps separate elite and common monsters to be a little bit clearer as well. They changed the HP bar color on top of that. Then they generally just did a whole bunch of UI changes, making the visibility on the Void Erosion Purge system clearer, crafting cores clearer, making it clearer when you have to do when you can do matchmaking for a Void Erosion Purge level versus not, and also being able to spend caliber to speed up research and stuff like that, especially when using a controller. Lastly, they added a much requested feature from a lot of people, actually two major ones, to the test. If you go to Sienna here in Albion and go to the laboratory, there's some new features in here. The first major feature is going to be this damage readout on the right side. I wish they went a little bit further and had a timer on it so we could actually look at DPS. I mean, you can calculate this yourself, and it's actually quite nice because it does firearm damage, skill damage, and then there's like elemental damage, which they have as etc. or etc, I'm not sure. But if you do elemental damage, especially from procs and stuff like that, it will add up to more damage there. But what's great is you can actually deal damage with this, and it'll actually show you how much damage you're dealing. And again, you can measure this and look at it and see how it ticks up and things like that. You see the poison added to the etc damage. But on top of that, they also increased the level of the Vulgus as well. So now you can go all the way up to 260, which is Void Erosion Purge level. So if you wanted to change this, you could actually reset it and spawn a new one, and then you can actually get a little bit more accurate representation of what kind of damage you're dealing to these targets based on the level that they have, and then you can start calculating out your DPS there. But it doesn't stop there. Not only did they add a damage readout, which is super awesome, you can hold a button to reset it if you'd like, they also added in Colossus as well. This is something that we've been asking for a long time. So if you go to the spawn and you go up here to the top tab Colossus, you can actually spawn any Colossus you've cleared, including the Abyss. So you can actually spawn a like Defiler. And here's a great thing to show as well if I have this set up. This is something that a lot of people get confused by on like how crit resistance works and why you don't need 100% crit chance on these like higher level mobs or the Colossus. So I have my my Wave of Light here, which has guaranteed crit, 100% crit chance. Once I'm inside of my buff, it will always crit or has perfect crit. But you'll notice that if I do it on Defiler, it's not always going to crit. And that's because the crit resistance exists on these enemies, right? So you see a lot of these aren't crits, even though I have the buff active for it. It doesn't actually give you that crit because it's reduced down. I think it's actually like a ceiling reduction of like 25 to 30% on Defiler. Some bosses will be more or less depending on it, but you won't be able to get perfect crit on these. And I think having these in the test room will give us some value. Now, keep in mind, there are still a couple things that won't properly activate in the test room versus being out in the field or in an actual instance with battles. Like your stats may not be perfectly lined up, but it is a great way to at least test how much damage you're dealing. Try different mods, mess around, see what your total damage is, then you can reset it and try again, do a full rotation, run it for a minute or something like that. I hope they add a timer to it so you can actually start timer, get DPS and actually see damage and stop timer just to measure it. But of course, it is a nice improvement on the system we have. And you can also add in the Void Erosion Purge level Vulgus as well, going all the way up to 260 as the maximum here. So if you really wanted to try, like, test out a AoE build on these characters, you can just see how much damage it's going to do to these very high level Vulgus monsters that have strong resistance, just to see how much damage it's going to do to them overall, and what the overall reduction is as well, which I think is a great test. You can even test out Void Erosion Purge builds where you do pure skill and then pure firearm and then combine those together just to see what it would look like for you and all of that there. And lastly, they have a whole bunch of bug fixes, nothing major in here, just some nice increases to things that were not working properly before, some UI UX, some system messages and overall pop-ups and stuff like that. But that is the patch for today. Remember, next week on the 13th, we're getting a new dev stream and hopefully a patch as well, going over the Hot Spring skins, the Valentine skins, and then the new content coming to the game as well, and some new options there. But this is the new system for Void Erosion Purge. Get out there and do leaderboards, and let me know what you think about all these changes down below. If you found value in today's video, leave a like down below, leave a comment for the algorithm to help this video get seen by more people, and don't forget to check out my other channels for other content and other stuff and other things.